first question, how can we be sincere in our tshuva if I know I'm going to fail again? And sometimes, as you say, it's with the exact same issue over and over again. So then what kind of sincerity is there? So let's see if we can get a change in perspective that will not only answer this question, but change the whole way that I approach life. When I look in the mirror and ask, am I sincere? So what does that mean? In other words, what's truly in my heart? What do I really want? So the Torah calls that Ratz Own. What's my Ratz Own? And one way that you can know your Ratz Own is see what you pursue consistently over and over and over again. Whether you pursue that thing consciously or sometimes unconsciously. But if I see a pattern in my life that I'm consistently running after something, then that is what I desire. That's what I want. And if it turns out that I keep running after tshuva, even though I might fall many times, but if I keep getting up and running after it, so that is a sign that my Ratz Own, my deepest, most profound desire, is for tshuva. That's called sincerity. Everyone knows the pasuk in Mishlei. There's a verse in Proverbs, chapter 24, verse 16, that says, Tisheva yipol tzadik v'kam. A tzaddik falls 7 times and gets back up again. Now he's a tzaddik. He's a great person. He falls on his face 7 times. So why do we look at him as a tzaddik? And obviously the answer is v'kam. He gets back up again. He consistently pursues this. So I can call myself sincere as long as I keep getting up and trying again. When I say, I tried, it didn't work, thank you very much, then that is an explicit confession. That is not something that I truly want. But if I get back up and keep going after it, that's something that I want. Okay, now, take that a step further. What happens when Sheva yipol tzadik v'kam, when I keep falling and I keep getting back up again and I run after it again and I run after it again? So there is a very inspiring, incredibly deep psychological insight in the book Heshbon Anefesh. It was written by Rav Mendel Zavares, and it's been translated into English. The English title, I think, is also Heshbon Anefesh, but it's really a worthwhile book to take a look at. Tremendous psychological insights. In section 56 in that book, Rav Mendel Zavares writes as follows. He says, Koach Gvuras Ratz Own, the power of your desire, your sincere will, Haktana me'od legabi ruach hatayvos hakashos, even though your sincere will is relatively powerless in a battle with your physical lusts or your physical desires and needs. When it comes to your sincere moral, ethical desires, those sincere moral, ethical desires may be less powerful. And therefore, nidchis mipneim lefi sha'a, in the short term, in the battle, it's very possible that my sincere good desires get squashed, and my taivas, my more gross physical drives, overwhelm and take over my body. Because the actual muscular power of my sincere desire to control my body is a fraction, a featherweight, compared to the drives of the body, which would mean that it's basically hopeless, that a person can never be a good person. However, there's a miracle that God built into the universe which gives us the ability to become heroes. He goes on and says, there's a kindness that God built into the universe. That little tiny weakling of a voice, that still small voice inside of us that wants to do the right thing, it doesn't disappear when it gets defeated. It remains in place. And each time that I try to do the right thing and I fail, my physical drives or my gross drives, my selfishness overwhelms and takes over, those attempts that I made to fight back, even though they failed and my behavior was gross and terrible, those attempts that I made to try to resist selfishness, destruction, destructiveness, those remain and they build up. Barashimos mitztarfim v'holchos, those good intentions accumulate. B'ofen shesof sof atida koch gvuras haratzon lelech ulitgaber berov hayamim afilu al yoter kasher shebetayvus. So much so that at some point, all of those little tiny quiet attempts that were defeated practically become a massive ball of super powerful will, and they overcome and trounce these strong physical desires of the selfishness that I have. How does this happen? Al-pi siyata d'shmaya. He says this is a miracle. And he says, therefore, eina davar talui elo b'hasmada ritzufa. Therefore, the only thing you need to do in order to ultimately succeed and complete the process of tshuva is just continue to try. If you try and you fail and you try and you fail and you try and you fail, each one of those tries builds up until eventually you are hitting with such a powerful hammer that there is no physical drive that could possibly stop you. There's no selfishness that could stop you. There's no darkness that could put out that light. All these little beads of oil accumulate until they overflow out of the vase and burst into flame, illuminating all the darkness. So, the first thing you have to know is, how can I be sincere in my tshuva if I know I'm going to fail again? Well, I can know I'm sincere if I keep trying. And I can't really know I'm going to continue to fail forever when the reality is I will not continue to fail forever. At some point, we are going to triumph. Goodness is going to win. Okay, now there's a second part of the question which is so powerful. How can we allow ourselves to grow incrementally when in the meantime I'm transgressing halacha? So that's really a problem. I mean, all the rabbis say, grow slowly, take one step at a time, don't jump. But practically, in the meantime, I could be eating a pig or lighting bonfires on Shabbos or speaking terribly about people or stealing or whatever the case is. And you just aren't allowed to go slow when you're doing terrible things. It's a very powerful question. And again, it's a question that everybody asks. At some point, this occurs to everybody. And the answer is very straightforward. It's very clear. There are things that I'm capable of doing that are within my reach, and there are things that it's not a question of they're hard. They're not within my reach. I couldn't do them if I wanted to. It's impossible. If you want to see this concept that there are types of moral, ethical behavior, religious behavior that is just simply beyond reach in my current state, you could look in Rav Dessler's spectacular essay, his illuminating essay called Kuntras HaBechira, the Discourse on Free Will, which has also been translated. I believe Aryeh Carmel translated that. And so you can get it in the translations of Rav Dessler's works. If you look there, what he'll say is that you have a sliding Bechira bracket. You have a sliding free will bracket. And each time that you do something which is difficult for you, but it's moral and it's good and it's the right thing to do, but you struggle, you push the whole bracket up a drop. And things that were beyond your reach until just now suddenly slide within reach because I've become a more refined person. And more than that, things that were corrupt that up until now I could do, when my Bechira bracket, when my free will bracket slides up because of this heroic performance that I just did, some of those corrupt habits that I had just feel too distasteful, and I can't bring myself to do them anymore. So distasteful things slide out of the bracket, and wonderfully admirable behaviors slide within the bracket every time I struggle and choose to do the right thing. Obviously, if someone chooses to do the wrong thing, the opposite happens. Then a person could actually degrade himself, and eventually a person could do things that are highly immoral that he never thought he would ever be able to do. Unfortunately, we've seen that happen in history as well. So the key here is you've got to be honest with yourself about what is and is not within your free will bracket. If it's hard, that means you can do it. If it's really, really hard, that means you can do it. As soon as you say it's impossible, then you can't do it anymore. So those things that are within your free will bracket, those are areas where you have to consider carefully, maybe this is something that I should be doing. If it's beyond your free will bracket, if it's something that you really can't do right now, don't worry about it. God is not judging you on that. He knows you can't do it. You just have to make sure that you and God are on the same page here, that really you're being honest with yourself and you know that you can't do it. In which case, relax, let your blood pressure drop. You're not obligated to be doing that thing right now. Okay, now, let's say that it is within your free will bracket. That still doesn't mean that you should be doing it, because there's another principle, and in short, this principle would be careful not to jump too far, too fast. You could crash. Okay, if you want a source for this idea, which you hear all the time from rabbis, the source might be a verse in Mishlei, again, Proverbs. This is in chapter 19, verse 3. A profound concept. The verse says, Iveles Adam Tesalef Darko. The foolishness of a person perverts his way. Ve'al Hashem yizaf libo. And then he yells at God. The foolishness of a person perverts his way, and then he yells at God. So what is this talking about? Who's this person who did something foolish and then got upset with God? Amar Chazal, the Vilna Gaon says as follows. There's Rav Eliyahu Kramer, one of the greatest scholars to live probably in the last 500 years. He writes in his commentary on Mishlei, on Proverbs, he says, it says in the Gemara Shabbos, page 104a, Haba li taher, if somebody sincerely wants to make himself into a better person, Misainoto, then God will give him supernatural success. God will give miracles. He will lift him in one fell swoop from the 20th floor up to the 120th floor with an elevator that moves at light speed. Habalatayr Misainoto. He'll give you incredible supernatural success. L'lifamim adam matchil lilmod. So sometimes what we find is a person starts learning velasos mitzvahs, and we find a person who's starting to keep mitzvahs. Ve'achar kach poresh, and then the person gives up. Why? Machmat shekashalo meod. It's very, very difficult for him, and he's having such a hard time, and he's sweating, and it's painful. And why is it so difficult? Why are his muscles cramping? Lefisha ein misayin lo, because God is not helping him. And he says, Ze lo fair. This is not fair. The Talmud in Tractate Shabbos says, Habalatayr, if somebody comes to purify himself, to make himself into a better person, God will give supernatural assistance. And I'm trying, and I'm not getting it. V'zoef al Hashem, and then I get all upset at God. Lama lo siehu, why aren't you helping me? And the Vilna Gaon continues, Ube'emes, the reason why God is not helping this person, hu machmat ivalto, is because of this person's foolishness. What did he do that's foolish? He's just trying to do the right thing. The Vilna Gaon explains, V'hainu, ki kol adam tzarich lelech lefi madregato v'lo yikpotz. Every person must walk down the path that has a steepness that's appropriate for his muscle structure. That is, you can't take too steep a path. You can't jump. Like the Vilna Gaon says, I've said many times before in my commentary on Mishlei. And if a person is responsible and they don't try to take a path which is too steep for them, which is going to stress them too much, then they'll find that they can walk safely along the path without being thrown into tremendous rebellion because it's so hard and so difficult. Af shisayuhu, even more than that, God will even give them these miracles. What will happen is if they walk their path, which is not too steep, their path is actually armed with these tripwires. And these tripwires recognize the RFID tag, which is spiritually embedded in their body. And as they walk past the tripwire, the miracles pop one by one. And they keep getting popped up to higher and higher levels supernaturally. Why? Because they're walking on the path which has an RFID code for their personality. However, this person, he didn't start walking down his path. He started walking down the path of some person who's far more spiritually muscular, someone who's far more advanced, someone who could handle much more steepness. That's why he didn't experience any miracles, is because that's not his path, that's somebody else's path, and he doesn't trigger the RFID on the other guy's path. So therefore, as he walks the path, there's no miracles. And the Gaon continues and he says, V'zewi velas adam, that's what it means. The foolishness of a person causes him to get angry with God. Kolomar, that is to say, machmat ivalto, because of his foolishness, shasa bli yishuvadas, that he chose the path without giving careful consideration. Is this a path that is humbly appropriate for someone of my limited abilities? Because he didn't make that calculation, he just saw the steepest, most dramatic, most heroic path, and he jumped right into it with really a haughtiness. Silif Darko, that's called perverting his path, because he didn't go on his path. Vuzoif al Hashem, lama lo seelo. And then he yells at God, why aren't you helping me? The reason he's not helping him is because God is saying, you're on the wrong path. Go over there and the miracles are waiting for you. So you have to know, if it's impossible, then don't worry about it. You're not held responsible at all. But even if it's possible, you have to ask, how steep is this? And is this going to cause me to rebel? If I'm going to end up flipping out, saying, I can't take it, this is far too much, it's the wrong path, and you have to progress slowly until you habituate yourself, and then you can take on a little bit more. Generally, the rule is, take things on slowly. If you're not sure what slow looks like, imagine something that's fairly small that you feel will not stress you too much, and cut that in half. Then cut it in half one more time, and you're just about there. Cut it in half one more time, and take that on. Once you've taken that on, if you're stable, then you can take on another little piece.
Hi, I hope you enjoyed that answer from a recent live call with Rabbi Kelemen. If you'd like to hear more lectures from Rabbi Kelemen, head over to LawrenceKelemen.com. Scroll down and enter your name and email address, and then click the orange button, and then you will receive in your inbox new classes from Rabbi Kelemen. Of course, we have a zero spam policy. You're not added to any other lists. You're just going to get material from Rabbi Kelemen. If you have any questions, feel free to email us at info@LawrenceKelemen.com.